Capitalization. Capitalization is simple in principle, but messy in practice. We will divide the chapter into two main parts. 1. Capitalizing proper nouns. 2. Other uses of capitalization. Capitalizing proper nouns. The general rule for capitalizing nouns is quite simple. Capitalize proper nouns. Proper nouns are the names of specific, individual persons, places, and things as opposed to common nouns, which are generic names for categories of persons, places, and things. In general, the distinction between proper and common nouns is clear enough, as is seen in the following table. However, the devil is always in the details. It turns out that determining what counts as a proper noun is not always straightforward. In the following section, we examine the categories of person, place, and thing in greater depth to sort out the conventions of capitalization. Capitalization of persons. The names and initials of persons are always capitalized, as are all other parts of their names, unless an individual chooses otherwise, as with K.D. Lang and Bell Hooks. John F. Kennedy, C.S. Lewis, George III, Martin Luther King Jr. Parts of names of foreign origin follow the conventions of the native country and do not capitalize articles like A.L., D.E., D.U., L.A., Van, Von, etc. Harun al-Rashid, Daphne du Maurier, Walter de la Mare, Charles de Gaulle, Ludwig van Beethoven. When civil, military, religious, and professional titles precede a name and are used as part of the name, they are capitalized. President Johnson, Pope Pius X, Cardinal Newman, General Bradley, Professor Smith. If the title is used in place of a name in speaking directly to a person, it is capitalized. Please come in, Senator. However, if the title is used when referring to a person, it is not capitalized. Ask the senator to come in. Even if a noun refers to only one person, the noun is an uncapitalized common noun unless the noun is used as a title in speaking to the person. For example, compare these two uses of the noun mother. Proper noun, call me when you get home, mother. Common noun, my mother called me when she got home. In the first sentence, mother is used as a title in directly addressing the person and is thus considered to be a proper noun. In the second sentence, however, mother is used to refer to a third person. Even though the person uttering the second sentence only has one mother, the noun is still a common noun because it is not used as a title in direct address. If a title is used following a name, the title is not capitalized. For example, Chief Justice Warren Burger. Warren Burger, the Chief Justice of the United States. Governor Jerry Brown. Jerry Brown, Governor of California. Archbishop Frederick Temple. Frederick Temple, the Archbishop of Canterbury. Professor William Smith. William Smith, Professor and Chair of the Economics Department. The names of groups of people, racial, linguistic, tribal, religious, etc., are normally capitalized. Afro-American, Latino, Catholic, Chinese. Capitalization of places. Names of specific countries, cities, streets, buildings, rivers, lakes, mountains, oceans, etc. are capitalized. Russia, Rome, Elm Street, Empire State Building, the Mississippi River, Lake Erie, Mount Hood, the Pacific Ocean. Regions are usually, but not always, capitalized. The Upper Peninsula of Michigan, North Pole, Southeast Asia, and the Southwest of the United States. The continent, Europe, the Arctic. Particularly common regional names, at least in the United States, are north, south, east, and west. When these words are used to describe a place and/or a regional culture associated with the place, they are capitalized. It is easy to tell these four words apart from the same words used as directional words because the regional names are nouns and can be replaced by the pronoun it. Compare the following. Proper noun. The West has always captured popular imagination. It has always captured popular imagination. In this next example, if we try to replace the directional words with it, the result will be ungrammatical. Directional word. Denver lies to the west of here. Denver lies to it of here. Popular names of places are usually capitalized and not enclosed in quotation marks. Bay Area, San Francisco Bay and surrounding area. Badlands, South Dakota. Eastern Shore, Chesapeake Bay. Fertile Crescent. Sunbelt. The Village, New York. Normally, generic topographical terms such as lake, river, and valley are capitalized if they are part of a standard place name. Bering Strait, Great Barrier Reef, the Red River, Rocky Mountains, Silver Lake, South China Sea, Walden Pond, the West Coast. However, when topographical terms are used descriptively rather than as part of the name, then the topographical terms are treated as common nouns and are not capitalized. The Arizona desert covers most of the state. The Mississippi Valley is the country's biggest drainage system. The Italian coast south of Naples is world famous. The Sierra Nevada mountains contain many active volcanoes. Words derived from geographical names are not capitalized when they are used with a non-geographical meaning. China, tableware, French fries, Scotch whiskey, Venetian blinds. Capitalization of things. The complete names of private and public organizations of all kinds are capitalized. United Nations, United States Coast Guard, the Bureau of the Census, California Supreme Court, the Xerox Corporation, Green Bay Packers, Cheney High School, Los Angeles Times, the New York Philharmonic. The names of historical, political, and economic events are generally capitalized. Boston Tea Party, Great Depression, Prohibition, the Reformation, New Deal, War on Poverty, World War II. The names of acts, treaties, laws, and government programs are generally capitalized. Declaration of Independence, the Treaty of Paris, Monroe Doctrine, Marshall Plan, Federal Housing Act, Social Security. The one area that does not seem to fit the general pattern of capitalization is the names of cultural movements, such as schools of philosophy and styles of art and culture. Cultural movements derived from proper nouns are an exception to the exception. For example, Gothic, Romanesque, and Victorian. Even when the names refer to what seem to be specific, even unique cultural movements, they are not capitalized. Baroque art, classical philosophy, Cubism, jazz, naturalism, romanticism, transcendentalism. Summary. Proper nouns are the names of specific individual persons, places, and things, as opposed to common nouns, which are generic names for categories of persons, places, and things. The general rule is simple. Capitalize all proper nouns. However, it is not always easy to identify proper nouns, and even then, there are a surprising number of special conventions that govern the capitalization of persons, places, and things. Capitalization of persons. The names, initials, and all parts of names are capitalized. The major exception is when a title follows the name. A following title is not capitalized. Compare the capitalization of the word governor in the examples below. Governor Jerry Brown. Jerry Brown, Governor of California. Capitalization of places. Names of specific countries, cities, streets, buildings, rivers, lakes, mountains, oceans, etc. are capitalized. Names of regions are usually capitalized, for example, the West Coast and Southeast Asia. Popular names of places are usually capitalized, for example, the Loop, Chicago, and the Valley, California. Normally, generic topographical terms such as lake, river, or valley are capitalized if they are part of a standard place name. For example, Golden Pond and Indian Ocean. Capitalization of things. The full names of private and public organizations of all kinds are capitalized. For example, Microsoft and the Chamber of Commerce. The names of historical, political, and economic events are generally capitalized. For example, Cold War and Civil Rights Movement. The names of acts, treaties, laws, and government programs are generally capitalized. For example, Equal Rights Amendment and Social Security. Other uses of capitalization. There are a number of other places in writing that require the use of capitalization. Capitalization at the beginning of sentences. The beginnings of sentences are always capitalized. Capitalization of titles. The titles of works of literature, music, film, and art have their own special conventions of capitalization. The first and last word of all titles are capitalized. All nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs in the title are capitalized. It is actually easier to identify what is not capitalized in titles, unless, of course, they are the first or last word in the title. Articles a and an, the, prepositions, conjunctions, and the to and infinitives are not capitalized. Everything else is capitalized, though some style books recommend that prepositional phrases longer than 4 letters be capitalized. The portrait of a lady, lovely to look at. In the line of fire. The same rules hold for chapter titles and other major divisions of a work. Capitalization of quotations. Capitalize the first word of a directly quoted sentence. Also see Chapter 14 section. Quotation marks with direct quotations and paraphrase. Churchill said, "Never have so many owed so much to so few." First words of quoted fragments are not usually capitalized. The future is always uncertain. It is that unknown land. Capitalization after colons. When an independent clause follows a colon, the independent clause can begin with a capital letter. Though this is a little uncommon, we simply could not reach a decision about the proposal. We couldn't agree on the criteria for evaluating it. Never use a capital after a colon when what follows the colon is not a complete sentence. I made a list of what we would need: computers, office furniture, and telephones. Capitalization in poetry. The first word of each line of poetry is normally capitalized, even if the first word does not begin a sentence. Gather ye rosebuds while ye may, old time is still a-flying, and this same flower that smiles today. Tomorrow will be dying. To the virgins to make much of time. Robert Herrick, in contemporary poetry. However, this rule may not hold. Summary. There are several other highly conventionalized uses of capitalization. The titles of works of literature, music, film, and art are capitalized according to the following rules. The first and last words are always capitalized, as are all nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and pronouns in the title. Articles, prepositions, and conjunctions are not capitalized. The first words of directly quoted sentences are capitalized, but first words of quoted fragments are usually not capitalized. Words or parts of a sentence following the colon are never capitalized. It is possible, though unusual, to capitalize the beginning of an independent clause that follows a colon. In poetry, the general convention is to capitalize the first word of each line, even if the first word does not begin a sentence. Parallelism. When we use a coordinating conjunction to join two or more elements of the same type, those elements are said to be parallel with each other. The elements that are made parallel by the coordinating conjunction can be nearly anything: words, phrases, or clauses. But there is a huge catch. The parallel elements must all be of exactly the same grammatical category. When we join two or more elements together with the coordinating conjunction, but the elements are not of the same grammatical category, then we made an error called faulty parallelism. Here is an example of a sentence with faulty parallelism. Donald loves eating pizza and to watch reruns of Baywatch. The problem with this sentence is that the coordinating conjunction "and" is used to join phrases that are not the same type. Eating pizza is a gerund phrase, while to watch reruns of Baywatch is an infinitive phrase. What is tricky is that they are both noun phrases being used as the object of loves. That is not enough. They have to be the same type of noun phrase. To eliminate the faulty parallelism, we can do either of two things. One, we can use a parallel gerund phrases. Donald loves eating pizza and watching reruns of Baywatch. Two, we can use parallel infinitive phrases. Donald loves to eat pizza and to watch reruns of Baywatch. The best way to monitor for faulty parallelism is to make sure that the grammatical structure on the right-hand side of the coordinating conjunction is matched by an identical structure, or structures on the left-hand side of the coordinating conjunction. A good way to ensure that the elements joined by the coordinating conjunction are actually the same is to arrange the elements in what we might call a parallelism stack. In a parallelism stack, the parallel elements are placed in a column so that it is easy to see whether or not the elements have exactly the same form. Here are parallelism stacks for the two legitimate examples just given. Donald loves eating pizza and watching reruns of Baywatch. Donald loves to eat pizza and to watch reruns of Baywatch. Grammar trivia. Memorable parallelism. Parallelism has long been the basis for dozens of stylistic strategies for creating memorable statements. An example is the isocolon, two successive phrases, clauses, or sentences that have the same rhythm, structure, and length, as in easy come, easy go. A tricolon has an additional parallel structure, as in I came, I saw, I conquered. When we use a parallelism stack with elements that are not actually parallel, the error is easy for our eyes to spot. Donald loves eating pizza and to watch reruns of Baywatch. Another important feature of parallelism stack is that it helps us determine what is actually being made parallel. Compare the following sentences. Donald loves to eat pizza and to watch reruns of Baywatch. Donald loves to eat pizza and watch reruns of Baywatch. When we compare the parallelism stacks for these two sentences, we can see at a glance what is parallel to what. Donald loves to eat pizza and to watch reruns of Baywatch. Donald loves to eat pizza and watch reruns of Baywatch. In the first example, the parallel elements are infinitive phrases, beginning with to. In the second example, the parallel elements are verb phrases without the to. Either way is perfectly grammatical. Probably the single most common situation in which faulty parallelism occurs is when there are supposedly 3 or more parallel infinitives. For example, Mickey needed to go outside, check the mail, and to bring in the paper. The parallelism stack shows that the 3 elements are not actually parallel. Mickey needed to go outside, check the mail, and to bring in the paper. In this sentence, the writer was not consistent about what was being made parallel. The first 2 elements are parallel verb phrases, go and check, but the third is an infinitive, to bring. We can have a set of 3 parallel verb phrases or a set of 3 parallel infinitives, but we cannot have a mixture. Here are the 2 correct ways of handling the parallelism. 1. Make 3 parallel verb phrases. Mickey needed to go outside, check the mail, and bring in the paper. 2. Make 3 parallel infinitives. Mickey needed to go outside, to check the mail, and to bring in the paper. Predicate adjectives and predicate nominatives are a common source of faulty parallelism. For example, young Snow White was belligerent and a bit of a rebel. Here, the writer has made an adjective, belligerent, parallel to a noun phrase, a bit of a rebel. Young Snow White was belligerent and a bit of a rebel. The easiest solution would be to make them both predicate adjectives. Young Snow White was a belligerent and a bit rebellious. A common source of faulty parallelism involves correlative conjunctions, in which the first element is misplaced so that the intended parallelism is derailed. For example, Bruce would either campaign for the president or the governor. The parallelism stack shows the problem. Bruce would either campaign for the president or the governor. The writer has inadvertently tried to make a verb phrase, campaign for the president, parallel to a noun phrase, the governor. The solution is to move either so that it is adjacent to the element that the writer wants to make parallel. Bruce would campaign for either the president or the governor. The writer could also have repeated the for to make parallel prepositional phrases. Bruce would campaign either for the president or for the governor. When a writer begins a sentence with a correlative conjunction, the writer is then committed to comparing 2 whole clauses, not a clause with just a piece of a clause. For example, not only did Goldilocks eat their porridge, but made a mess as well. The parallelism stack shows us the problem. Not only did Goldilocks eat their porridge, but made a mess as well. The first element is a whole clause, but the second element is only a verb phrase, a piece of a clause. The simplest solution is to make both elements complete clauses. Not only did Goldilocks eat their porridge, but she made a mess as well. Sometimes what counts as faulty parallelism is surprising. When we use a string of 3 or more noun phrases, the first 2 noun phrases establish a pattern of modification. If the pattern is then broken, it is a faulty parallelism. For example, Minnie always takes her briefcase, her cell phone, and BlackBerry to the office. Here is the parallelism stack for this sentence. Minnie always takes her briefcase, her cell phone, and BlackBerry to the office. We need to make the third noun phrase follow the same pattern of modification as the first 2 noun phrases. Minnie always takes her briefcase, her cell phone, and her BlackBerry to the office. The other possibility would be to strip the modifier so that the parallel items are all bare nouns. Minnie always takes her briefcase, cell phone, and BlackBerry to the office. Summary. Parallelism is surprisingly finicky. Anytime you use a coordinating conjunction, you should look at the element after the coordinating conjunction and then work backward through the sentence, making sure that any other parallel elements have exactly the same form. The parallelism stack is a handy way of working through more complicated examples of parallelism.